Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I made chili cheese dogs. Now, the day before for lunch, I tried a new recipe for chili. I got this on Instagram from a gentleman named Pepperbelly Pete. I'll have his Instagram link down below. So I had that left over. I'm just going to warm that up. And then here's what I'm going to use for the rest of the chili dogs. So I've just got some hot dog buns, hot dogs, and shredded cheese. To go along with it, I have these extra crispy fast food fries in my freezer. These are really good. If you've never tried them before, I recommend them. They're not exactly the same, of course, but they're really similar to McDonald's fries. And then I have this steak and shake seasoning. We really like this on burgers and fries. It's really yummy. So I'm just going to cook these up according to the package instructions for the fries. So for the chili dogs, I took the hot dogs and popped them into the air fryer. I cooked it at 390 degrees for maybe about 4 or 5 minutes until they started to get brown. I laid them out on the hot dog buns, and then I'm going to cover them with some of that warmed up chili and some of the shredded cheddar cheese. I popped them into the oven. I just cooked them at the same temperature that the fries were baking at, and I baked them for maybe 5 to 7 minutes until the cheese was nice and melted and the buns were toasted. And here are the plates. So we have the chili cheese dogs. And when I have chili cheese dogs, I like doing 2 hot dogs to 1 hot dog bun. And my husband likes to add ketchup and mustard to his chili cheese dogs. And then we've got the fries and some ketchup for our fries. And that was dinner this night. For dinner this next night, I made white beans and cornbread. Now, I've shared how I make my pinto beans before my channel, and I make my white beans exactly the same. So here's what I'm going to use. I've got some Great Northern beans, and then I typically like to use ham hocks for my beans. I could not find ham hocks around me for the life of me. I have no idea why. All I could find was a country ham hock, so I'm going to use that. So what I did was I took my beans, I put them in a strainer, I picked through them, so you want to look for any rocks or any beans that just kind of look weird and discard those. And then I gave them a good rinse, added them to this pot, added my ham hock. Now if you don't have a ham hock or you don't want to use it, really use what you've got. You could do fatback, you could do bacon, you could do smoked turkey necks, you could do just chopped up ham, or you could leave the meat out altogether if you wanted to. So I covered this with water. I'm going to bring this to a boil. Once it's at a boil, I'm going to turn it down to about medium low, and then just cook these for about 2 to 3 hours until they are good and tender. Now, you do want to check your beans. I would say probably every 20 minutes or so, because you may need to add some more water. Now, I mentioned this when I made the pinto beans. I've never soaked my beans. My mom doesn't. My granny never did. And we've never had any problems with them turning out tender. But hey, it's your kitchen. If you want to soak your beans, soak your beans. So here's what it looked like after they were done. Now, the last time I had added some water, I accidentally added a little too much. So the beans were tender here, but there was a little too much liquid for my particular liking. So I'm going to go ahead and cook them down a little bit. I'm also going to remove that ham hock and shred off the meat and add that back to my pot. At this point, once the beans are done, I would suggest adding salt if needed. Because I use the country ham hock, I did not need any salt whatsoever. You can also season these up however you'd like. I know some people cook their beans with onion and they'll add different seasonings, but I like to just keep it pretty simple. Now, sometimes we just do beans and cornbread, but I decided to do like a veggie plate. So I'm going to make some honey butter corn. This is a new recipe I tried. I'll link it down in the description box below for you. To this saucepan, I'm going to add in some butter and honey, and then cook this on about medium-low heat until the butter is melted and the honey is nice and melted as well. Next, I'm adding the corn. The recipe suggested using frozen corn, but I had a can of this white corn in my pantry that I needed to use up, so I'm going to do that. Give that a stir, and then I've got the heat down on about medium-low at this point. I'm going to cook this for about 5 minutes. Next, I'm going to add in my cream cheese, and I have cubed this up, and then I'm going to season this to taste with some salt and pepper, and then we are going to cook this for another maybe 3 to 5 minutes or so, stirring it occasionally until the cream cheese is melted and everything's warmed through. Give it a taste at that point and adjust the seasonings to your taste. I felt like the mixture was a little bit thick, so I added in just a tiny little splash of milk. Now, for the other side, I cooked up some boxed macaroni and cheese, just followed it according to the package instructions. This is the box that I use. It's just the deluxe great value mac and cheese. For the cornbread, I've shared how I make this before on my channel, but tonight I did a small batch of the cornbread, so I'll have that recipe typed out in the description box below for you. And then for the beans, Gary likes this hot chow chow on his beans, so I'll set that out for him. Here are the plates, and y'all, this takes me back. So I've mentioned before on my channel, but just in case you're new, so my little sister and I, we would spend summers with my grandparents on their dairy farm. We would go up there for spring break, for fall break, and then we did live with them a little bit off and on, particularly when my other grandmother, my dad's mom, had breast cancer, and my parents were helping to take care of her. So we spent a lot of time at my grandparents' farm, and during the summers especially, we would have what I call, or some people call them, summer vegetable plates or vegetable plates, where just whatever was fresh from the garden, we would have that night for dinner, along with some cornbread and usually some version of a bean. And so this takes me back. So we've got our beans, our cornbread, Gary's got the chow chow, we've got the mac and cheese, the corn, and then I sliced up some tomatoes and cucumbers, and I cannot even begin to describe to you how delicious this dinner was. Sometimes simple things are the best, and this was just so good. For dinner the next night, I made a Cajun shrimp and sausage sheet pan dinner. So I'll be sharing how I made this in an upcoming sheet pan dinner recipe video. So keep an eye out for that if you'd like to see how I made this. This was really, really yummy. It was super easy to put together. I think from start to end, including prep time, this took like maybe 20-25 minutes tops to make. So to go along with this, I had some leftover cornbread. Remember I mentioned I'd made that chili for lunch one day. I'd also made the Plain Chicken's Jiffy cornbread, and I had this left over, didn't want it to go to waste, so I thought I'll just warm that up and have that with our Cajun shrimp dinner. And then I also put together like a quick little, so okay, my husband loves condiments. He is a condiment guy, and I knew he'd probably like a condiment to dip like his shrimp in, so I just put this together real quick. It's just basically mayonnaise, some ketchup, a little Cajun seasoning, and I will put the recipe that I took inspiration from down in the description box below for you. But this was super, super yummy, and this was our dinner this night. For dinner the next night, I did not feel like cooking, and pizza sounded good to me, so I asked Gary if we could order pizza, and he said sure. So we did Papa John's. Now, Papa John's had a special where you could order certain things. If you ordered more than one item, you could get them for $6.99 each. So we did 2 medium pizzas. That way we could have leftovers for lunch for a couple days. We did their Hawaiian barbecue chicken pizza, which is basically just barbecue sauce, chicken, bacon, pineapple, and then just plain pepperoni, and that was our dinner this night. For dinner the next night, a big salad just sounded really good, so we did chef salads. You really can use whatever you like for this. Typically, according to the Google machine anyway, a chef salad usually has hard-boiled eggs, 1 or more types of meat, tomatoes, cucumbers, and cheese, and then of course lettuce. So here's what I'm going to use, but like I said, use whatever you like. First, I've got some romaine lettuce, and then some spinach. On this plate here, I've got some cubed ham, turkey, some Colby Jack cheese, cucumbers, tomatoes, some cooked bacon, hard-boiled eggs. I've got some diced carrots and some green onions. And then to go on top of the salad, I've got these croutons. I like these little salad toppings. They're so yummy. They've got like sunflower seeds and all kinds of yumminess in them. And then on my chef salads, I really like honey mustard dressing. And I had this O'Charlie's in my fridge that I need to use up. I've shared before on my channel how I make my homemade honey mustard. I'll try to remember to put that down in the description box below. Basically, we're just going to lay down our salad, add the rest of our toppings, and that was dinner this night. Gary was at the gym, so he ate later than I did, but this was my plate. So yummy. For dinner the next night, I tried a new recipe. It's called 15-minute sticky Korean chicken. I'll, of course, have it linked down below. This was probably our favorite dinner this week. This was delicious. This meal had so much flavor. And I'm not usually a big Korean food fan. My husband loves it. But I thought this was so good. So to start out, we're going to make the marinade for the chicken. To this bowl, I'm going to add in the brown sugar as well as the gochujang paste. Now, I found this at Target. I've also seen it at Kroger and Food Lion. So check your local grocery store. You may not have to go to like an Asian market to find this. I'm sure you could also probably find it on Amazon. Next, I'm adding in the soy sauce, and I always use low sodium soy sauce, but that's just a personal preference. Use what you prefer. I'm also going to add in the minced garlic, grated ginger, rice vinegar, and paprika, and then I'm going to whisk that until it's really well combined. Now, the recipe suggests to mix the marinade, add the chicken, and then immediately start the cooking process. But I marinated the chicken for about 45 minutes or so, not very long. You can let it marinate if you've got the time. Of course, it will be, more delicious. But if you are just trying to get dinner on the table, just, do what the recipe says. Go ahead and mix it up, add your chicken, and start cooking. So to this, we're going to add some boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I'm just going to add them to the bowl, kind of give it a toss so the marinade gets all over it. And then, like I said, I just set this to the side and let it marinate for about 45 minutes. The recipe suggests that you cook this on top of the stove, which you can absolutely do. I decided to cook it in the air fryer though. So to my air fryer basket, I added a silicone insert. I just find these on Amazon. You can just type air fryer silicone insert and they'll pop right up on Amazon for you. Now, I did season the chicken just a little bit with a tiny bit of salt and pepper, and I cooked this at 360 degrees for about 8 or 9 minutes. Now, how long your chicken ultimately takes depends on how thick your chicken is. You just want to make sure you cook it until it's at least 165 degrees internal temperature. Here's what the chicken looked like when it was done, and just like any other meat, you do want to allow this to rest for maybe 5 to 10 minutes before you slice into it. To go along with this, I decided to try to make kimchi fried rice. Now, I will link a recipe in the description box below that I took inspiration from, but I watched several videos on YouTube and just try to take different pieces from the different recipes that I saw. So in my wok, and I got this for Christmas from Gary. This was my first time using it, and I loved it. Can't wait to use it more. So to this wok, I've added in a little bit of oil. I'm going to add in an egg and scramble it, and once the egg is cooked all the way through, I'm going to remove it to a plate and set it to the side. I've got this on high heat. I'm going to add a little more oil, and then several of the recipes that I saw, they suggested cooking up some bacon and removing it once it was crisp and using the remaining bacon grease. But I didn't want to do that, so I just took a tiny little spoonful of bacon grease and added that to the oil. Once that was hot and the bacon grease was melted, I'm going to add in some diced onion, carrots, and then the whites from some scallions. I'm going to stir that and cook that for just a couple minutes until the vegetables get nice and tender. And side note, you totally do not have to have a wok to make this. Just use the largest skillet you've got. Next, I'm going to add in my kimchi. I put this in a bowl and then just use some kitchen scissors to chop it up. I'm going to give that a stir and then add in the gochujang paste. Now, this does have some heat to it, so if you're not a big fan of heat, I would start out by adding a little bit. You can always add more, taste as you go. I'm going to stir that in, and then I cook that for just a couple minutes until the kimchi started to get a little caramelized. Next, I'm going to add in my cooked rice. This is just jasmine rice. I cooked this up in the rice cooker the day before. You do want to make sure that you use cooked and cooled rice. So try to make it a few hours in advance. The day before is even better. Once I've added the rice, I'm going to add some sesame oil on top, and then using my spoon, I am just going to kind of smash up the rice and get rid of all of those clumps. At this point, I'm going to add my scrambled egg back in, as well as some of the scallions. I did keep some to use as a garnish. I'm going to stir those in and then give this a taste and adjust the seasonings to your taste. I felt like it needed just the tiniest little bit of salt, so I'm going to add that. And then we're going to finish it off with just a little pat of butter, as well as some nori sheets. Now, I'm obviously not Korean. I don't know how authentic this is. Like I said, I just was going off of the different videos and recipes that I saw, but several videos suggested taking some nori sheets and crushing them up. I had some on hand, so I figured I'd give it a try. Delicious. So I'm stirring the shredded nori sheets in, and this is basically it at this point. I just allowed it to cook for a couple minutes so that parts of it got a little bit crispy, but here is what the finished product looked like, and this was so good. Now, you don't have to do this, but here's what I'm going to use for my little garnishes. I've got some chopped scallions, sesame seeds, and then I had this kimchi mayo sauce in the fridge. I thought it would be good. I found this at, I think, TJ Maxx. It was like $3 or something for this jar. So to serve it up, I just sliced the chicken. I garnished it with some of the sesame seeds and then laid down the fried rice and added some of the scallions and sesame seeds to the rice, and then drizzled some of that kimchi mayo over the rice. And then Gary was at the gym again this night, so when he got home, I made his plate, and for him, like, he had just worked out, so I figured he could use a little extra protein. So I cooked up an egg for him, left the yolk nice and runny, and he absolutely loved the egg on the rice. And like I said, this was one of our favorites this week. This had such incredible flavor, and it was so good. Last but not least, I tried a new recipe for sweet and sticky kielbasa. I saw this on Kristen Stepp's channel. I have her video linked down below. This was another super easy dinner to put together. You really just need 2 ingredients. Here's what I'm going to use. You need some Coca-Cola and then kielbasa. Now, I prefer to use the turkey kielbasa, but you can use whatever your preference is. Let me show you how to put this together. I've got just a little bit of oil in my skillet. It's over about medium-high heat. Once it's hot, I'm going to add in my kielbasa. I just sliced it into rounds. I am going to allow it to cook for a couple minutes on each side. All you're wanting to do here is just get a little bit of color on the kielbasa, and once it's brown on both sides, then it's pretty much done, and we're going to move on to the next step. Now I'm adding in my Coca-Cola, and then that's pretty much it. We're just going to reduce the heat to about medium and simmer this for 20 minutes or so until it becomes thick and syrupy like a glaze. You do want to go through maybe once or twice and just stir it, to make sure it's not burning and you've got enough liquid there. But like I said, that's it. Super easy. Here is what it looked like when it was done. For the sides, I'm keeping it really easy tonight. I'm going to cook up some of this creamy 4-cheese rice-a-roni according to the package instructions, and this is what it looked like when it was done. For the other side, I have this frozen steamed broccoli florets. I'm just going to cook these according to the package instructions, and then I drained the water off of it, put it into a bowl, added a small pat of butter and some salt and pepper, and then that was it. All right, here are the plates. So we've got the kielbasa, the broccoli, and the rice, and this was a yummy and super easy dinner to put together. All right, that is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and you got some dinner inspiration from it. If you did, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.